constantly recovering between trainings and games because the expectation and the output of training is so high and so demanding that you have to be at your best for it. And it's the same with games, regardless if it's championship or league. You have to be firing at your best, and especially prevent injuries too. So on the day between or post game, for me, again, I'm a believer in cold water. A lot of people aren't, but I'm a big fan of ice baths or cold baths. So cold shower, I'd have a cold shower in the morning, but especially in championship time, I'd have a cold bath at night. Again, just cools the body temperature as much as anything, but it definitely helps me with the legs.
But yeah, the main thing for my recovery is just sleep, and finding ways to get to sleep quickly enough if you've had a late game and you know that you have to have a quite tight turnaround. I'm not a great sleeper, so I've had to find ways of like making that more effective, and so like that, then you get into like sleep routines and stuff. But yeah, sleep is a huge one for me, and I just know that if I'm not getting enough sleep, it doesn't really matter what else I do. Like I just can't recover in the same way.
For instance, we would have played Sunday and then Monday morning we'd go in for recovery. We've got like 8 or 9 stations, and they try get you to hit at least like 5 or 6 of them, which the stations would include like make sure you get massage, bike flush, pool, Normatex. Like you have to hit the nutrition station, which would be then like protein bars, collagen, turmeric shots, ginger shots. So to make sure you have to hit at least 5 of them for an adequate recovery. Yeah, I'm a sucker for going the pill, massage, and then just eating. I just have to eat so much. I'm always starving the next day, so yeah.
They're the best. They're the cheat days. They're the best.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of ice baths. Again, going into sleep, like I think I start usually like 2 nights out from the game, having an ice bath like just before bed, maybe 10 minutes in there. Obviously it's good for recovery, but then I think it's good for your sleep routine too. So I'd be a fan of that. I think blood flow the next day, just getting moving, whether it be, Katie mentioned the watt bike. I got a watt bike during lockdown as well, and I loved it, but I do use it on the recovery days, like a 10, 15, 20 minute sweat and a stretch. I think is massive. Just getting moving after a rugby game, especially, like you could have dead arms, dead legs, whatever it might be, just to get moving again, and again not to be in bits come your next training day.
During the week, it's just pretty much making sure you're getting enough food and sleep to be able to perform the next day in training. And then we'd kind of focused on like maybe the more specific recovery tools before racing. I'd use the compression boots quite a lot, just like the night before a race. A lot of like supplements as well. We use the Cherry Active. I don't know if you heard of it. It's like basically just concentrated cherry juice. It's got a load of melatonin and antioxidants and stuff in it, just to help with the sleep. And obviously the antioxidants then would help you recover in some way. I'm not sure the specific mechanism or whatever.
We're lucky in Kerry with all the lovely beaches we have, so it's getting to the sea, not generally as a group, but just in smaller pods. I like going with, a few of the closer friends, will say, I would have from the panel, because again, you're getting your benefit from getting into the sea, but I suppose you're having a chat, you're debriefing, whether it was the game at the weekend or whether it was the training session last night. You're just going through things like that, and I think I just like the fact that you still feel like you're in the bubble as such. But yeah, the sea is the big one we'd use, and then at times we would use there's a few different cryotherapy kind of centres in Kerry where you've combination with the boots, you've the ice and the heat contrast, we'll say, with the cryo and the jacuzzi and stuff like that. So again, though I think they work well in a group setting as well, because you're getting in and you're among the bubble, and it's there's just a good buzz to them.
Yeah, very similar to David. I wouldn't be a fan of the cold water now myself, so oftentimes I'm dragged in. But yeah, you definitely feel some benefits from it. I suppose aside from those points that David made, if you're feeling particularly a bit, heavy on the legs, I'd often go for a rub, just from a physio, just to get the lactate flushed out of the legs. But other than that, very similar to David.
For Gaelic footballers and hurlers, obviously, there's your work, there's everything else that you have to do in all your normal daily activities. And that means there is a chronic, I suppose, stress in terms of tiredness and fatigue, and the mental workload that you're going through, then your daily work, and then managing your time and your family and getting to your training. So all of those aspects are massive. And unless you're recovering fully from the physical exertion of training in every manner that you can, and a lot of that is still basic principles, but unless you're doing all of that, you're going to start having to miss training sessions or missing out sessions or not hitting form, and then you're trying to chase it and you're trying to maybe train harder and make up for it, and you're in a vicious cycle. So recovery, it is absolutely massive.
Very little thought in recovery at all. It was something there was a warm down after, and that was it. When you wouldn't really go to sea unless you were injured, or say down the championship and you had a night out, and then you were getting ready for, say, a backdoor game. You might meet at Fintra and go on the sea just as a bit of tonic. So no, it was something that should have been used more, particularly with us in Donegal. Use what you have around you, but there was very little rehab or recovery in all the time that I played. In fact, there's plenty of times here I played for Hearts on a Saturday night at 8 o'clock, played 90 minutes plus on a heavy pitch, played for Donegal 2 o'clock in the National League. It seems crazy now that you would do that, but I did it a load of times. And I've a few aches and pains since because of that, but particularly one just in the hip. So for me, I would be on the road repping, you see. I'd jump out of the car, I could have been driving for a couple of hours, or driving that whole day, I just jumped straight onto training, very little warm up, and away you go. So all those things were the wrong things to be doing, but I wouldn't blame anybody for that because nobody really knew much about it.
No matter what you do as an extra, the two most important things in recovery are sleep and nutrition. Recovery is a big topic, and it needs to have a very holistic view. So we need to understand, what are you recovering from? So what else is going on in the world of the athlete? It's great to hear him talk about his really good practices, but a lot of the research on recovery is actually performed in scientific laboratory conditions. So it's important to consider the demands of life outside of the training itself. So travel commitments, social media pressures, congested schedules, environmental changes, and even in elite athletes like Connor, I think he's a teacher, the role of holding down a job and how it affects your recovery has to be factored in. So different sports likely involve different mechanisms of fatigue as well. So hockey might be a slightly more demanding sport for certain movements than maybe rugby or tennis or Gaelic games. And if you can understand the demands of the sport through either key performance indicators, fatigue mechanisms, as well as the culture of the sport or the organization, then that allows you to design a more effective recovery program for the athlete. The variables you need to consider include facilities, equipment, logistics for travel, training, the period of the season, because you might want certain adaptations to occur in off-season that you don't need pre-competition. Individual preferences is probably the most important thing. Some people like cold water immersion like Connor, some people hate it. Does it have the same effect in both athletes? This sort of evidence would suggest it doesn't. So coaching staff, support staff play a really big role to help give example or plan recovery into an athlete's schedule. So to understand what recovery is required, you need to monitor training, competition, and even their methods of recovery and their status.
Think about every time you go out and undertake a training session, what you actually do is break down your body. So if I did a test of speed or endurance before a hard training session, and I repeat the same test immediately after the training session, you will not perform. There'll probably be a 30-40% decrement in performance, because what training does, it overloads and it causes you to fatigue. And what the body does, the body likes to keep a very normal what we call homeostasis. It likes to keep the acidic levels in the blood, as the pH, or the hormone levels in the blood, the temperature, at a very, very narrow range. That's what humans live within, this narrow range. So every time we train, we throw the body out of kilter. It says, oh my God, what has happened here? But with appropriate recovery, that allows you to get back to where you started from, if you give the appropriate recovery. But because you stress the body more than it's used to, the body's saying, the next time you take me out, I'm going to make sure it's not going to disrupt me as much. So I'm going to adapt. I'm going to get fitter. I'm going to make the muscles. I'm going to have more factories inside the muscles to make energy. I'm going to have more capillaries or highways supplying blood to them. And the body adapts. But when does the body adapt? During recovery. So first of all, you recover to where you were, and then you adapt, you improve. And if you don't give the appropriate time for just to recover and then to adapt to your training session, then training's a waste of time.